Baltimore and down here locally for what I guess, in an annual basis, and I know we get an event every year down in the D.C. area where we get all fawny about Tiger Woods, and once in a while we get a U.S. Open up in Pittsburgh or in New Jersey or something, but certainly this was a BFD this weekend for the Senior Players Championship here at Caves Valley. Our pal Robert Kennedy was out on the course all weekend long, and exciting times, I think, for everyone locally who loves golf. Right, Robert?
Oh, absolutely, Nestor. Like you said, these don't come around often. The last major in the Baltimore area was at Caves as well in 2002, the U.S. Senior Open. So it had been a long dry spell since there'd been a major of any sort of the men's tour or the Champions Tour there, or women's for that matter. So, yeah, it was definitely, definitely good to see a lot of these guys that were playing this week. Last time we saw them, like you said, would have been in a regular PGA Tour event, in this area. So, matter of fact, most of them had not played Caves Valley and weren't there in the 2002 U.S. Open.
Well, it's been a long time. I mean, I remember the '02 event vividly. I've had WNST now for 2 decades, so I go back that far. And I know they announced this thing 2 years ago, and there was just a lot of lead up to it and where it was going to be. And, obviously out on the course, the names are there. All of my friends are out there who love golf. And, there's Bernard Langer over there, and there's John Daly over there. And, there were a lot of familiar names, and certainly that becomes the draw for a lot of folks who don't get outside of the area to experience golf other than maybe watching the azaleas in April every year in HD, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I think you had 2 big draws, the names that they've seen on TV for the better part of 20 or 30 years now, most of these guys, and the chance to get into a course that, frankly, you or I couldn't walk up to and, check out one day on our own. There's been some other events there throughout the years. There's been a couple college championships there, men's, the boys and women's had theirs there. A few years back, the women professionals had an international crown. I don't think it really lived up to the hopes that they were going to get, but yeah, as far as it's not the type of course that, that the regular person gets to frequent. So just to get on the grounds there and walk the course the last few days was pretty special, and it's a spectacular course.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit before we get to the play itself and locally for golfers. And I've been to Caves. I've had a few lunches up there. I've been offered to play. I'm not a player, just not my thing, just not how I would want to spend 6 or 8 hours in a day. I know for many of you, as an enthusiast, it becomes an appendage of your personality and your socialism or socializing, I should say. In Caves Valley, you've been on hundreds of golf courses. You worked down at Compass Point. You've played all these courses, and you're very involved in the golf community. Caves is kind of a special place that maybe a lot of folks around here, because they're not country club people, they do play publicly, maybe they know of it. But to your point, this was much like my wife and I getting an invitation to go down to Augusta and just walk around. It's kind of a big deal just to walk around Caves, right?
It absolutely is. It's one of those places, that if golf was even on your radar, even as a casual person, and probably more so a diehard or avid than the casual person, but if golf is something that's on your radar and you have the opportunity to get out there and to see it firsthand and, actually see some good golf and see some legends of the game, Bernard Langer certainly is that, and others, it's an opportunity you want to take because, we just mentioned, it doesn't, this was a 1-year deal. Next year it's moving on to, I believe, Chicago or something, and maybe it'll be back in a few years. There was actually a lot of talk. A lot of the players were asked afterwards as to how they thought this course held up. With this winning score, which we'll get to in a little bit, being 18 under par, a lot of people think, well, maybe it wasn't as tough as it could be, but, they asked if could it stand up to a men's major or a men's regular event. The answer was a resounding yes, that all they have to do is move the tees back a little bit further, that they didn't use the back tees on every hole, move the rough in a little bit. The fairways were pretty wide and generous this week, and actually, wider than some I'm used to playing. So it made for good scoring because these guys can still hit the ball. They may be in their 50s, but Scott McCarron, the winner, he averages 295 yards driving. So, it's not like
these aren't average guys, right? Literally, right?
Exactly. They're not average guys, and you know what? They're not the senior tour of the 80s and the 90s.
Where Bob Hope and Bing Crosby are out there hanging out, drinking champagne, right?
The Miller Barbers and the Bob Murphys and such, when this tour began, these are guys that all came on and started playing during the Tiger boom, really, or slightly before. So fitness has been important to them, and it's been something that they've been accustomed to. And so you're seeing guys out there that, even though they're in their mid-50s, are trim and fit and are in the trailers every day. So it was a lot of really good golf played out there.
Well, when you see guys with green jackets as well, that always gets people's attention, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It shows their pedigree. Bernard Langer with a couple there, and Couples was early in the week, and he pulled out. With a green jacket as well. So
and the weather held up, right? I mean, it could have been a lot worse. I know some storms in the area and whatnot. It was a little moist out there in the early part of the weekend, but still, nonetheless, it did okay for the most part, right?
Hey, it was hot and humid in July in Baltimore. Is that a shock to anyone? Yes. But yeah, no, the rain, there was a little bit of rain Friday afternoon, that delayed them. Actually, they had to kind of quit early because of that. So they finished up the third round on Saturday.
I think we needed that on Friday to cool things off a little bit anyway, right?
I think so. It was an unbelievable difference. I was talking to one of the caddies before Sunday's round, and he was just saying the difference between, Sunday and Thursday was just unbelievable. I mean, he thought he was not, and this is a guy that caddies out there every day for his living, but he said it's the toughest walk, that they have on tour, and he's done the regular tour and the senior tour.
We are on the line with Robert Kennedy. He covers all things golf here locally as well as college basketball. He's been our friend for a number of years. Buckets and Birds is his new Twitter handle. He's given up the CAA beat, although I'm sure you'll be still watching a lot of basketball as well and covering the Big Ten as well. You can find him at Buckets and Birds out on Twitter, Robert Kennedy, and that is spelled Canady. You're at Compass Point. There's a lot of things going on locally on golf, but I must say this. There really was a build-up to this weekend, right? Like, locally, I heard golf people talking about it for weeks. It's almost a little bit of a hangover, but I'm sure for the thousands of people that went out there and watched them hit the ball over the weekend, now people want to go out and play their own game, right? It's like watching Wimbledon over the weekend. Everybody wants to go play tennis all of a sudden.
Exactly. That's exactly what it was. It's something puts golf on the radar, and during the dog days of summer, we've got baseball going on and everything. But beyond
do we have baseball going on? Really? You sure?
Some cities do. So things like this happen, and they get they get the players out there itching to play. They're out there watching this in person, and they're seeing these guys hit these drives 300 yards and 7-irons 200 yards, and they say, oh, you know what, I'm going to go do that tomorrow. I can do that. I got that shot. And then they find out that they really don't, and I'm talking about myself included in this. So it definitely gets the interest going. There was some build up to it. Like I said, first major in 15 years, and it turned out to be a phenomenal event, with some big names up there everyone knew.
And you don't get a chance to go again next year either. So, it really does become sort of a generational thing, I think, for fathers and sons who love golf to go out there and see Fred Funk or Colin Montgomery or whomever. There are plenty of names out there. Jay Haas, Corey Pavin, Lee Jansen, Vijay Singh. There were just a lot of stars in town, right?
It really was, yeah. Like I said, there's guys that, like you said, fathers telling their sons about, he's won this tournament, or I saw him in 1985 do this, I saw him in 1996 do this.
Larry Mize, Joey Sindelar, Ian Woosnam, Mark Calcavecchia. These are all huge names in golf, right? Especially
Absolutely.
If you're my age.
Yeah, Larry Mize was leading after the first round. He shot a 64 in the first round, and in the press room afterwards, the first thing that was brought up to him was, not his 64, but it was the 30-year anniversary of his chip in to win the Masters in the playoffs. Yeah. And, he kind of laughed at that. And they asked him, how often does he get asked about that? And does he ever get tired of being asked about it? And he says, always and never. And he said, why would I? It's such a great memory. It's been the highlight of my golf career. And, for 30 years later, we're still talking about it. And it's something I'll always treasure. So, these are, players that have made shots that are famous and, that you see all the time on SportsCenter and CBS. Every time a Masters rolls around, you see that clip. You can't watch the Masters each year without seeing that. So,
what are you guys doing down at Compass Point? I know you got stuff going on down there.
Yeah, we're in the middle of, the season, but we always try to do some different things, as far as get some different type formats going on to bring people out other than just playing the regular 18 holes with their buddies. We have coming up at the end of August, we have a thing called night golf, and that's really kind of we've done that a few times, and it's one of the more popular things we do. You come out, you basically play 9 holes. You come in, and the 9 holes starts around 5:30 or so. You come in, you have dinner afterwards and a couple beverages, and you go back out about 8:30, and it's dark, and you have glow in the dark balls that you play with. The fairways are kind of lit with illumination sticks, and you play your last 9 holes in the dark. And
is this like night bowling, like the bowling when they turn the disco lights on and all that, sort of like that?
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. Except instead of a 60-foot lane, you've got a 200-yard hole or 300-yard hole.
See, that sounds like something. If you added alcohol, that might be fun for me.
there are some.
Does the ball glow in the dark in the woods when I lose it, or no?
It still does, yeah. It might be easier to find there. And then, it still glows in the dark. And,
then I'm eligible. I'll make it to the second hole.
And beverages are definitely a big part of that. And then one of the other things which I think is going to be big, and it's something we haven't done yet, we've talked about for a while, and it's the Labor Day weekend on September 2nd, that Saturday, I believe. We're having called the Compass Cup. We're going to give everyone, it's not a Ryder Cup year, but it is a President's Cup that'll be played a few weeks later. So we're going to give everyone kind of get the juices flowing for that. It's going to be a 2-man team. You can, come out with your own partner. If you don't have one, we'll pair you up with one, and you play 27 holes of Ryder Cup format, so you get to play the same type format that they'll be playing in the President's Cup. The better ball, the alternate shot. And 27 holes and team play and competition. So it'll be a chance to have local bragging rights, and I'm sure there'll be a nice little trophy and awards to go along with it. And again, beverages will make that one as well, too, adult beverages.
Well, that is golf. Golf is adult beverages, especially every time I've been involved. I've usually been the guy driving the beer truck at that point. Robert Kennedy does all things golf around here. He is our local golf expert and insider down at Compass Point. And you can follow him out on Twitter at Buckets and Birds, the PGA Champions Senior Tour coming through here. And we have crowned a winner in Scott McCarron over Bernard Langer late in the day on Sunday at Caves Valley. And as they say, a good time was had by all. Right, Robert?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, everyone was smiling except for maybe Bernard Langer, actually, afterwards. Even Brant Jobe, who finished third, was, happy with his finish, a little disappointed. Scott McCarron was just thrilled. It's his first major, title of any sort. The people at the PGA Tour were happy with the turnout and the way things were run. And, yeah, like you said, really great event all the way around.
And Caves can go back to catering to, rich people who can afford it now and let them play every once in a while.
I think they locked the gates right after we left.
Get all the regular people off. Get all the unwashed off the course up there. Hey, man, it was great having you on. Great talking a little golf here this summer. And I hope you're not a stranger around here. We'll see you down at Compass Point soon, Robert.
Absolutely, Nestor. Thanks a lot.
You got it, man. Bob Kennedy, our pal Robert Kennedy, out on Twitter at Buckets and Birds on Twitter. He does golf sales down at Compass Point. He's a good man, and you can look him up if you want to hit the little white dimple ball. You can find me out in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault all week long here at WNST.net as we keep you abreast of all things Orioles and deals and Machado, as well as the Peter Principles, now up to Chapter 9, 10, and 11 coming next week on audio in the Buy a Toyota Audio Vault, as well as here on WNST.net at AM 1570. I am a very available individual, just like Mr. Angelo. You can email me anytime, nasty at WNST.net. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Instagram, and streaming live on our Facebook as well as our YouTube WNSTV channel. And if there's any breaking news at all with the Orioles or the Ravens, any trade deadline stuff going on the baseball side, all of our relief pitchers are for sale, apparently. You'll get it all first on the WNST Tech Service. That is brought to you by Coons Ford of Security Boulevard. I am Nestor. We are WNST.net, AM 1570, and WNST Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore sports.